You should have seen her face. Brenda Walsh, the self-proclaimed Queen of Greenview Estates, when two military Blackhawks roared overhead, their blades slicing the summer air like thunderclaps from the heavens. Her towering blonde beehive wobbled like a Jenga tower in a windstorm, and her precious drone spiraled into chaos, crashing headfirst into her prized petunias with a satisfying crunch. It was beautiful. But rewind a little. How did it come to this? How did a suburban dispute turn into an air show-worthy spectacle that shook the very sidewalks of our neighborhood? Let me tell you the story of how one overzealous HOA tyrant decided to declare war on my family, all because my daughter liked to dance. My name is Caleb Harper. I'm a 42-year-old Black Hawk pilot with 20 years in the US Army under my belt. I've flown through enemy fire, blinding dust storms, and onto carrier decks pitching like roller coasters. But none of it, and I mean none of it, prepared me for the minefield of Greenview Estates, a neighborhood that looks like it was built in a lab for Stepford wives. Beige houses line the blocks like carbon copies of a dollhouse model. Every driveway features the same regulation basketball hoop. Every mailbox conforms to HOA code 3.2a. And heaven help you if your lawn dares to grow a fraction of an inch too tall. On paper, it was supposed to be our dream. A peaceful, well-kept place to raise our daughter. My wife Emma, sharp as a tack and twice as patient, is a 40-year-old accountant who could cut you down with a smirk and a spreadsheet. Our daughter Chloe is 12, a firecracker of energy and joy who sees the world as her personal stage. She twirls through life, literally. Whether it's while brushing her teeth or waiting for toast to pop, she's dancing. We'd imagined backyard BBQs with friendly neighbors and block parties under string lights. Instead, what we got was an HOA regime that ran tighter than a military operation, except with less logic and more hairspray. It all started innocently enough. 6 months ago, we got a letter, typed of course, in that smugly passive-aggressive font that only HOA committees use. Apparently, our rosebush, yes, our beloved rosebush, was obstructing the pedestrian line of sight by 2 inches. 2 inches. Now, I'm a helicopter pilot. I measure clearances and distances for a living. I could eyeball a landing pad in the middle of a sandstorm, and I was being told by Brenda Walsh that my rosebush was a public hazard. Still, I trimmed it back without a fuss, figuring it wasn't worth the energy. Emma sipped her coffee, eyes twinkling with that quiet brand of sarcasm she's perfected over the years, and said, "She's got too much time on her hands." I laughed. We brushed it off, thought it was a one-time thing. But with Brenda, that was just the opening act. A week later, we got an email. This time, it was about our trash can. Apparently, it was 3 centimeters off the curb line. Not crooked, not blocking anything, just a bit too close to the grass. I nearly choked on my beer when I read it. 3 centimeters, I said to Emma, waving the phone. If I was 3 centimeters off in my line of work, I'd be scraping my helicopter off the side of a mountain. Emma didn't even look up from her spreadsheet. "She's testing us," she said. "Don't take the bait." But I could feel it. Brenda wasn't interested in community aesthetics. She was establishing control, and we were next on her hit list. Still, I played nice. I nudged the trash can into place, took a photo, and replied with a short, "Fixed it." Her response? A 200-word manifesto about the importance of visual harmony and communal integrity. That's when I started saving everything, emails, notices, photos, into a folder titled, "Hey, Nonsense." Because it was nonsense, and I had the feeling it was only going to get worse. I just didn't realize how much worse, until Brenda turned her sights on Chloe. Chloe is the heartbeat of our household. She doesn't walk, she glides, spins, hops, and twirls. Her favorite place to dance? Right on the front lawn where the sun hits just right, and the smell of freshly cut grass fills the air. Chalk in one hand, jump rope in the other, she'd transformed the sidewalk into her own masterpiece. Rainbows, hopscotch grids, little cartoon cats with lopsided grins. It was her way of turning the world into a playground. To me, it was magic. To Brenda, it was an abomination. One afternoon, I came home from base still wearing my flight jacket, ready to hug my girls and unwind, only to find Chloe curled on the couch, tears soaking her curls. Her jump rope lay on the floor like a forgotten toy. She whispered, "Dad, that mean lady said I can't dance in the yard anymore." My stomach clenched. I glanced out the window, and there she was. Brenda Walsh, strutting down the sidewalk, clipboard swinging like a guillotine, and that ever-present smirk etched across her face. I saw red. I stormed toward the door, ready to give her a piece of my mind, but Emma caught my arm. "Caleb, don't," she said. Calm, focused. "She wants you to snap. That's her play. Be smarter." And she was right. I'd seen war zones with more dignity than this neighborhood, but I wasn't about to lose my temper over a petty dictator and her clipboard. I hugged Chloe tight and whispered, "Dance all you want, kiddo. No one's stopping you." But I was done playing nice. I emailed Brenda, respectfully reminding her that Chloe was just a child, dancing on her own property. Her reply? A 500-word essay, again, this time laced with veiled threats about HOA violations, fines, and something about maintaining the visual tranquility of the neighborhood. Emma read it out loud at dinner, dripping with sarcasm. "Looks like we're running an illegal dance club now, Caleb." We laughed, but inside I was seething. I added the email to the growing pile in my "Hey Nonsense" folder and made a decision. If Brenda wanted a war over joy, over chalk, over a 12-year-old's laughter, then she'd picked the wrong family. From that moment on, it wasn't just about compliance or community standards. It was about principle. And I knew Brenda wasn't finished. She was just getting warmed up. It was one of those heavy August afternoons where the air hangs thick like wet wool, and even the birds seem too tired to sing. The kind of day that makes the world feel still. Until it isn't. I was in the garage, elbows deep in the guts of a lawnmower that had decided it hated me, when I heard it. That unmistakable high-pitched whine that made my skin crawl. Not the usual buzz of summer insects. This was mechanical, purposeful, close. I wiped my hands on a rag and stepped outside, and there it was again. Brenda's drone, hovering in our front yard like a vulture circling a meal. Its sleek black frame shimmered in the sunlight, camera lens glinting like an unblinking eye. Chloe was dancing again, spinning carefree with her earbuds in, oblivious to the looming presence above her. Her brown curls bounced with every twirl, her arms stretched wide like wings catching the wind. Then the drone dipped lower and lower. The propellers kicked up dust, and the wind from its blades sent a shiver through the trees. Chloe stopped mid-spin, eyes locking onto the mechanical intruder now just feet above her head. And then, crackling through a tiny speaker, came a chilling, robotic voice. "Cease unauthorized activity. Dancing is prohibited in front yards." Her face froze in terror. She dropped her phone, screamed, and bolted toward the house, her sneakers slipping on the grass as she sprinted. And that drone, it chased her. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My feet moved before my brain could catch up. I tore across the yard, lungs burning, heart thundering in my chest. "Chloe, inside!" I bellowed. She stumbled through the front door as I skidded to a stop, facing down the drone that was now hovering at eye level, as if daring me to act. And across the street stood Brenda Walsh, arms crossed, remote in hand, sunglasses perched on her nose like a queen surveying her kingdom. I shouted across the road, my voice raw. "You're scaring my kid!" Brenda didn't even flinch. Instead, she pressed a button on her remote, and the drone's speaker echoed her words back to me, distorted and smug. Your daughter is a nuisance. I'm enforcing community standards. That was it. That was the moment something inside me shifted from anger to absolute resolve. She had crossed the line from annoying to dangerous. She wasn't just playing games anymore. She was tormenting a child. But instead of lashing out, I did what I was trained to do. Stay calm, assess, and act. I stepped back, pulled out my phone, and began recording. Every aggressive swoop, every inch that drone invaded, every second Brenda stood there grinning like she owned the skies. I got it all. Then I turned and went straight to the garage, my hands steady, heart still racing. I picked up my radio, flipped the frequency to my unit's private line, and said 5 words. Guys, I need a favor. My voice was tight, clipped, no room for questions. 2 birds, low and loud, over my neighborhood, training run clearance already filed. A pause. Then came the voice I'd hoped for. Mike, my buddy, fellow pilot. No hesitation. On it, Harper. What happened next was nothing short of poetic justice. It began as a distant rumble, like thunder rolling in from a storm that didn't exist. Then the sky cracked open. 2 Blackhawks, majestic, black, powerful, roared into view, blades thumping the air with the sound of impending reckoning. The entire neighborhood vibrated. Car alarms shrieked, trees bent, and Brenda's drone, it panicked. The downdraft hit it like a hammer. It wobbled, spun in helpless loops, then went careening across the street in a spectacular nosedive, landing with a crunch in the middle of Brenda's flower bed, right between the petunias and the gnomes. The street was chaos. Neighbors poured from their homes, phones in hand, mouths open, kids cheering like it was the 4th of July. Brenda stood frozen, mouth agape, hair flattened by rotor wash, sunglasses askew, clutching her now worthless remote like it might somehow rewind the last 30 seconds. I walked across the lawn, calm, collected, and leaned in just enough for her to hear me over the fading roar. That's what happens, I said slowly, when you mess with my daughter. Her face flushed redder than the flowers at her feet, but there was nothing she could say. Not over the applause building around us. Not with the drone wreckage smoking in her garden. Not with the neighborhood finally waking up. Back inside, Chloe was curled on the couch, Emma's arms wrapped tightly around her. Is it gone? She whispered. I knelt beside her, brushed a curl from her cheek, and said, It's toast, kiddo. Emma looked at me over Chloe's head, one eyebrow raised. Helicopters, Caleb. I shrugged. Seemed appropriate. But the truth was, that drone crash wasn't the finale. It was the beginning of the end. That drone wasn't just a toy. It was evidence. Evidence that Brenda had gone too far. And now we had everything we needed to make sure she never got the chance to do it again. That night, I uploaded the video to a secure drive, every frame showing just how far Brenda had taken her delusions of power. Emma sifted through the dozens of notices and emails we'd collected, organizing them like legal exhibits. It was a mountain of evidence, and at the top of it all was the smoking gun, or rather, the smoldering drone. We weren't the only ones who'd suffered under Brenda's reign. She'd fined the Millers $300 because their golden retriever dug a hole under their fence. The Wilsons got hit for a $400 mailbox infraction. Mrs. Jenkins, sweet, quiet Mrs. Jenkins, had to pay $200 for using curtains that didn't match the HOA's color palette. People were fed up. They'd just been too scared to act. Until now. Emma had a plan. We need the neighbors, she said. We need numbers. We need voices. So we printed out flyers, simple and direct. Meeting at the Harpers. Time to end the drone tyranny. We passed them out under cover of night, slipping them into mailboxes like revolutionaries planting seeds of change. The next evening, our living room buzzed with nervous energy. Tom showed up first, holding a beer and looking like he was about to testify before Congress. "Did you really bring in Blackhawks?" he asked. I just smiled and gestured to the TV. We played the footage again, Chloe's scream slicing through the room, the drone diving, Brenda's smug voice echoing off the walls. The effect was immediate. Gasps, whispers, anger. Mrs. Jenkins clutched her purse and whispered, "She filmed my grandkids." Tom stood and said what we were all thinking. "She thinks she owns this place. She doesn't. Not anymore." That night, we drafted a petition. Remove Brenda Walsh from the HOA presidency. No more fines. No more drones. No more fear. One by one, the neighbors signed. Pen strokes sharp with years of frustration. Emma gathered the sheets like they were sacred texts. "This is going to be fun," she said, eyes gleaming. But we weren't done. I dug through Brenda's HOA posts, screenshots of her bragging about the drone, timestamps that lined up with our footage. I sent everything to the FAA and the local police. And within days, justice came knocking, literally. A cruiser parked in Brenda's driveway, 2 officers on her porch. She waved her arms, shrieked about her rights, but it didn't matter. They handed her a citation and drove off. And just like that, her armor cracked. The HOA meeting was set. We were ready. The community center was packed. The air smelled like anxiety and instant coffee. Brenda sat at the front, her clipboard now more a shield than a weapon. But the room had turned against her. We had petition copies, printed testimonies, and the smoking drone footage. Tom stood first. "We're here to vote Brenda out. She's fined us for nonsense. She terrorized our kids. She broke laws." He hit play on the projector, and the room went dead silent as Chloe's scream echoed again. Brenda leapt up, shouting, "This is slander," but it was too late. The Millers spoke next, then the Wilsons, then Mrs. Jenkins, her voice trembling but firm. Hands went up. The vote was a landslide. Brenda stormed out, heels clicking like gunfire, clipboard abandoned on her chair. The room erupted, cheers, high fives, hugs. Chloe looked up at me, eyes wide. "Can I dance now?" I scooped her up. "All day, kiddo." A week later, the sidewalk was a riot of color again. Chalk rainbows, stars, a cartoon Brenda with a drone tangled in her hair. Chloe twirled under the golden light of sunset, the sound of her laughter floating on the breeze. Emma leaned into me and said, "You went a little overboard with the choppers." I smiled. Had to make a point. And the point was simple. Never let anyone bully your family into silence. Stand tall. Fight smart. And if needed, bring the storm.